we can't stop talking about it because we have a long way to go.
Welcome to the Last Catherine podcast.
Hi, welcome to Last Catherine. I'm Pallas.
And I'm Robert John Hadfield. And before we introduce who's with us today, I'm going to do our what's in the blank question. See if you guys can get this. In 2014, blank percent of Broadway audiences were female. In 2014, blank percent of Broadway audiences were female.
40%? That's my guess.
Okay.
Oh,
40%.
I'm going higher. I'm going to say 72%. I'm going to go pretty high.
Okay.
Yeah.
Answer was 68%.
Oh,
so you're very close.
Nice.
So fascinating that a larger portion. I mean, that's statistically more than half. I mean, there's no, even with a margin of error, whatever it would be, you're well over half of the audience. And what's to me that was so fascinating to see because of some of the things that we're going to talk about today. Even though we have such a large audience of women going to these shows, the opportunities in the shows themselves are frequently much lower. Mm-hmm. And the people that perform in them. Anyway, so before I get too far on that, talking about that, I want to introduce you, and then we can let you talk a little bit about this. So this is Kimberly Jongejan, right?
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't sound like it looks.
No.
But I learned that a long time ago. Kimberly is a super genius when it comes to the arts and directing plays. How many plays have you directed in your life? Do you know?
I was thinking about that the other day. Over 60. I want to say 65 to 70.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
So you have and you're pretty young to have done that many. I mean, you're going to have 4 or 5 times that by the time you're all over with. So
coming up on 20 years in January.
Okay.
Since I started.
It's quite an impressive number. And I've had kids in several of those productions, and I've been to a ton of your productions. They're always, they're just top notch, great stuff. I mean, you do great work.
Thank you.
And so when we were talking about the potential having you come talk to us today, and we were talking a little bit about the arts and women's involvement and what are some of the issues, you brought up something that I thought was really, really important, and it's something that I've heard from other women before, and that has to do with the competition and the opportunities for women in performing arts.
Yeah.
So maybe we can have you just jump into that a little bit.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. There are so many amazing roles when you want to think as a child who has this passion for Broadway and passion for theater. You think, oh, I want to be Elphaba in Wicked, or they pick some really big roles. And then as you get more and more into it, so there's one big girl in the show and then a ton of leading guy parts. And then, there's a couple sidekick girls here and there, and then there's the chorus parts. And so, this started to dawn on me a lot more as a director, choosing scripts, wanting to have opportunities for girls, because I do get so many more girls that audition for me than boys. Easily, if I have, let's say, 100 kids audition for me for a production, which isn't, it's pretty regular, around 100. I would say I probably get 15 to 25. 25 would be a good day of how many boys try out for the show.
Really?
Versus girls. I just get so many more that audition for me of girls. And these are sometimes even shows with guy heavy, it's like a guy title, when we did Narnia, that has a lot of great guy parts and we didn't get as many as I thought, and also, so the competition becomes less for the gentlemen, for the guys. It's a lot easier for a guy to get in the show than for a gal, just sheer numbers wise, And I talk to friends about that in the industry, and that seems to be very, very normal. They're always trying to find guys that can be in the plays, in the shows. They want a broader pool of the stronger men.
How would it be? Because so it's a lot of young people.
Yeah,
you're casting.
But we find it with the adults too, though.
Yeah, and so how would it be for a girl have you ever had a girl say, I'd be happy to do a boy part if, and is that something you guys cast sometimes, a girl for a boy's part?
I have done that. I try to stay away from that a little bit, only because I have to do what's best for the part. So in my heart, I just go with whatever I think fits better. So if I think this one girl can pull off a guy pretty well, I might go down that road. But most often I try not to. I know, though, that I adjudicate for the Bobby G Awards very often, which are the high school equivalent to, I would say like a state competition. They're run by the Denver Center of Performing Arts, and professionals like I go to different high schools and we judge their shows. And so I have noticed that that's the case just across the board. There are just a lot more girls, and so they often cast girls as boys participating in the shows on the high school level.
I asked because I played Virgil Carp in Greater Tuna once.
Did you?
Yeah, they had. Yeah. I mean, Greater Tuna, is normally just 2 people, but they did a whole cast, and I didn't. It wasn't a speaking part. I just was honorary, but
nice.
I was a boy, so.
That does happen.
So I have a question about when you first started talking. You were saying you look for parts, you look for plays that have more female roles. At some point, we had a conversation about this test called the Bechdel Test, and I've never thought about this in terms of theater, but the test is there more than one female role in a movie? It's usually for movies, more than one female role. Do the females talk to each other, and do they talk to each other about something other than the men in their lives? And so I'm curious, if that applies to plays, if that's something that we would have a hard time finding plays that actually pass that test.
I think you might. I think there's a big push and a big voice out there now in playwriting where they're really trying to encourage modern playwrights to look at that and try to explore women on a such broader level, how they relate
character,
or how they relate to just taking care of the family, or how they relate to their children, or not that those things, and please, I'm not saying any of those things are bad. It's just
it's typical.
It's just this is the path we've been on. This is where we're going. That's why
reinforcing these stereotypes.
It's one of the reasons why Wicked was such a trailblazing kind of piece, because it was about 2 females. Neither of them have children. Both very empowered and
you want to show females that have children or don't have children, or are wives or are whatever lovers, and are just empowered, because that's women are empowered no matter what. But because that was another question I had. The young girls that try out for your plays, that come to audition, do you think that, I'm sure it has a subconscious effect, this competitiveness, and then the fact that there's not a lot of roles, but do you think that they consciously notice that there's not roles for them? I think in some ways they do. I think also it's they get disappointed when it's not that big role, the big role. As they get into the plays, and I really consciously try to make the roles be fun and exciting, even if it's not the big role, try to give them all these fun little niblets that they can chew on that make their character personal and make it more fun, so the role seems bigger to them because it's a real thing happening. So they're invested in the character.
And they can kind of create it and contribute to some of that. But at that audition process and at that beginning, you have one girl that gets, like we're doing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, one girl that's truly scrumptious. She's the big role for the girls. And then Jemima, who's the younger child, one of the Potts children. But that truly scrumptious, she's the girl with the big solos, and she's the girl there. And so you have children who are 8 that want to be truly scrumptious. There is that competitiveness. They're like, oh man, I didn't get the big part.
So you've been doing this for like 20 years. You've done your acting on your own too. You've done a bunch of this, and you're a good singer, and I know you're a great singer.
Thanks.
And so what were the things that made what experiences that you had that made these issues come to light
Oh, well, I can tell you. I remember when I got to college, I went to St. Olaf in Northfield, Minnesota my freshman year. And I was, at my school, I was the big fish. Everybody called me, all this talented stuff. And then I got to college, and I was there with all the other big fish from all the other big communities and all the other big schools. And I thought, oh, well, I'm going to get in the elite choir. Of course I'm going to get in the elite choir. I get chosen for everything. And then I get there and realize that there are 95 other freshman girls who are all in their elite choirs, and they only have 2 spots open for freshmen. So then it's like, oh, hey, and then you have just a reality of, I must not be the best. I thought I was the best, but now I'm not. And so then you have this checklist of, I must not be all that great. But then you have to sit there and think the numbers. Okay, not all 93 of us suck, Yeah. It was just 2 spots, and you have to deal with it. But I think that was my first biggest one of, man, there's a lot of really great, talented women out there, and there aren't a ton of opportunities for us that we wish we could have. And to be fair, they do have an all-women's chorus, and many colleges will have for freshman girls an all-women's chorus, so you can still keep using your gift. But yeah, I think that was the biggest one for me. And then also when I started directing and started doing scripts, reading through more and more scripts and trying to find the ones that people can connect to as a community, and they want to hear the stories, and they're kind of popular, but B, give these kids opportunities to do stuff, because I know I'm going to have a ton of girls, and so I try to make it work.
What are the kind of things, because you deal with a lot of teenagers, the teenage girls, then what are the kind of things that they, once they're in the play and this is all happening, what are the kind of things that they're having to deal with uniquely? I mean, they had to fight to get these roles because there are fewer roles for them. And now they're in there. You've got a select number of girls that are big parts mixed in with a whole bunch of boys that are in bigger parts.
Right.
What's the dynamic, and what are the issues that you've seen that happened there at that point?
Well, it can get dicey. There is a lot of, just girldom, which, the chatting, the conversations. They still have, sometimes little cat claws will come out, and you have to just kind of watch for that and keep them encouraged by giving them some responsibilities, things to do, talk about their character, give them some more things to kind of help with it. We do a lot of talking within the context of when I'm directing, so I can help the kids understand the bigger picture. And oftentimes that helps some, but I would be silly to believe that there isn't, life that goes on in there too, where they get really competitive and really nitpicky with each other, and they do start to tear each other down in some ways, but I try really hard to try to mitigate that as best I can, just by saying, hey, you know what, we're all in the same boat, you both can be pretty at the same it isn't like one person can only own pretty, or one person can only own talented. Everybody here is talented.
It's amazing how there's a culture of that in theater and in film and things like that, because it is, everybody in a play or in a movie, it's really hard, and you all have to work together, and you have to play off each other, and so it's a family. And yet they're both such competitive industries that it kind of pries on people's insecurities.
Oh, absolutely.
And we always talk about cultural change, and that's something that I feel like we really benefit from, because like when you go to Hollywood and you like hang out at parties there or something, it feels like nobody is your friend.
Oh,
like,
no. Yeah.
People are just there to get what can you offer me? What
kind
are
of
you
plastic.
Here for? And okay, so that I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
And it just feels like that.
Yeah.
And so that just kind of, I don't know.
It is a very strange dichotomy in that regard. You lean on the people in your shows and in your art and in who you interact with in the same sort of way that in any second they can turn on you, or they'll be the next it person, or they'll jump right into where you are. And I think it feeds off of the fact that we're at the heart of everything seeking the approval of the public, you know, which is a hit or miss kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, the public's approval shouldn't... It's terrible because, like, I don't trust the public to approve of me.
Right.
I approve of myself. However, if you're in that kind of role, that is what you're looking for. And you're also dependent upon the writers writing to support you as an actor. And gosh.
Yeah, and it's your responsibility as an actor to your audience and to whom you're doing the art for, to honor the person who created the art, to honor yourself and your performance and how you interpret that and put it out there, but then also to your audience to make sure that they get the most honest and genuine portrayal of that art.
And I have a question, part of my ignorance about this, but because you're a director and you're a female director, and I know in Hollywood there isn't a lot of female directors for movies. In theater, is it an imbalance, or is there more female directors?
I would say, at least locally, we have, I would say probably more male, but I wouldn't, the women who are strong directors in this town do get a lot of directing time, I think. There probably could be more. Obviously, there probably could be more. And again, it's about who you know and who you talk to when and what works are coming up, what pieces are coming up, because a producer will often pair somebody that they like their style, they like how they do things with that work. So I would say it's fine. It's okay. It could be better, but I think it's not
Less imbalanced.
Yeah,
maybe.
it's not totally scary. I think there's more. The more question would sway a little bit more in race, more than gender. At least here locally.
Yeah. You know, in my little world, I mean, I've performed for 2 different theater companies and been in 4 different shows in the last couple of years, and in both cases, in every show I've been in, it's been a woman directing it, and they've been awesome, by the way. I mean, it was just, we had some incredible results, and they were great to work with. So that's my, you know, at least that's what I've seen, my little experience in my little world. I wanted to, if I could, take you kind of to a weird question then, that you know, you're talking about, you have this intense competition, and you're frequently dealing with teenagers, but you also now, I think you are doing adult plays and things now too, right? Okay. So I was talking to a friend of mine this last week, and she said that there was this horrible thing that happened right around the age 30, 31. She says where my resume went from this pile to this pile.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted you to talk to that for a second. And then is there a similar thing for men, and when does it happen?
Yeah. Okay. That's really actually an excellent question. Does it happen for women? Absolutely. It does. And probably right around the 30, 35, right in there, depending on how young the woman looks. Many of the parts and many of the pieces are written for an ingenue, you know, written for a younger girl. And then the older women, there aren't as many, you know. Gentlemen, on the other hand, there is a shift, but it's a different kind of shift. It's more just looking at how you would cast them. And then once you get past 45, it's even worse.
For a woman.
For a woman, it's even worse. And at least in this town, in Denver, there are a handful. I want to say I could probably name 12 really strong actresses over the age of 50, and they work all the time. And they do well. But there's a whole bunch of them that are in that mix too that don't get cast very often because there's so few roles that are offered in town.
It's interesting because I was in Guys and Dolls last year, and I was playing Sky Masterson, and it was so interesting because I was 45 and the woman I was cast against was 19. And if you put us, and they put black in my hair so I didn't have the silver stuff. And if you put us next to each other, I showed a bunch of people, I said, how different do you think we are? And it didn't seem quite as, hopefully I looked a little younger, I guess. But then I started doing some research, and I looked in movies like Tom Cruise, and he usually is like these days 20 years older than the female character he's playing across from. And I think what is
It's real.
interesting culture thing that there really is that, and it doesn't seem to be as, although it certainly happens for men, it doesn't happen
Not in the same way.
not in the same way.
No, not at all.
That's so impactful to our culture. And then also, how often is the woman like, here's her abilities, she's a really great actress, and here's how beautiful she is. Like, well, this one's this beautiful and this good, and this one's this good and this beautiful.
Right.
So let's go
She's
for the
too
one
old
that's more beautiful.
or something, yeah.
Or you know, and that's just
Yeah.
insulting to the industry.
It kind of is. People always wish they could cast the show with strong performers that are true to what it is that's written. You know, I think women who have been lightly seasoned, if you will, as they've been in their life, also bring this depth that is often overlooked because of the whole appearances. It really, as much as I hate to say it, a lot of theater and a lot of art and a lot of that often goes to the appearance, you know.
And here's then the big question: is that the fault of the people casting, or is it the fault of that's what the audience is going to want?
It's both. I'm not going to lie, it's both. I think most audiences will come along with what the director is doing and will buy into their vision if the director is smart, really, really thoughtful and intelligent about why they're making certain choices, and keep that consistent across the whole production. If they're just doing it because it's the wife of so-and-so's friend and whatever, well, you know, the audience is going to see through that generally. I know that there was a production that was done a couple summers ago over at the Edge where the gal who was playing Mrs. Robinson, you know, the mother of the college student, was quite a bit senior from the kid who was playing the college student. But you know what? People bought into it. They bought into it, even though it was a conscious choice to have a quite older, and I don't mean that in a negative way, just age-wise, than what might have been cast by somebody else. They may have chosen somebody in their early 40s.
I guess it's very different for theater versus Hollywood, because Hollywood can't fake the age as much because you're right up there. You can see people's pores.
Oh, totally.
And then you've got producers who are backing it, who want that to make money. And if you get the really gorgeous hot actress to play the supporting wife role, then she doesn't need to have the seasoned depth of her, you know, life experience behind. She can just make the money roll in.
Yeah.
So I guess the casting directors have some pressure.
And it's fascinating because when you talk about making them buy into your vision, I want to go back to the Guys and Dolls thing that I was in just a second ago, and not talk about me, talk about somebody else.
Yeah.
The other two, there's Sky and Sarah, and I can't remember the other two in the show, but the other two that are the couple, this same director cast the opposite, had a woman that was probably like 8 years older than the man. I don't think anybody in the audience ever even occurred to him.
Yeah.
And you could kind of tell when you looked at him that she's older than him, but you just go with it because this is the director's vision. It's what she wanted to, and she found chemistry between these two people, whatever their ages were, and throws them on the stage, and they were unbelievable. And I don't think anybody ever questioned that whole issue, had any sort of a problem with her, with the age disparity or what have you there. So when you make that point that people will go along with the director's vision, a lot of this really does fall on the director saying, well, you know, we can do what we want, and if we do it right, people will just go with it.
If we try to blame the public for what they want, then we're not really giving them a lot of credit. Yeah. Because if a good actor plays a role, I mean, if you're going to be moved, you're going to believe that they're husband and wife, or you're going to believe that she's the president, or whatever it is. It's going to move you. You believe it. You bought into it. But to get easy money, I guess, you know, XYZ shows their boobs in this episode, this movie, or whatever. You know, that's going to make a bunch of people go. So that's integrity, I guess. We're starting to talk about integrity.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, before we wrap this up, Kimberly, are there any therefores or takeaways on this topic that, what does one do about this? Is there things that we should
Sure.
learn or know?
I would still encourage girls to pursue and go forward and do the arts, but also on the broad level. Let's get more things written that are of high quality, that can be choices that are made that we like, that we can incorporate. And also, from the director perspective, again, taking that responsibility, that whole question of, are we shaping culture or culture shaping us? And I think, we're both. It's a tandem thing. And so if we consciously make choices to kind of shatter some of these subconscious ruts, for lack of a better word, that people are in or that we have been in, and just go with it, it's going to change. It's going, our vision is going to change. What's acceptable, what's not acceptable, all of those things are going to start sinking into the greater world around us. And then there will be less of that. Well, I really need to, see more, body parts, in order to make it believable that she's sexy. If we can express somebody's powerful and amazing and stuff, even without that, what a new perspective, what a new way to look at something. It becomes more easy to accept, or easy to put into our conscious and subconscious, I think. So
in a way, we
That's
kind of need
great.
to start with the writing. We can get more good writers writing.
Yeah, and
more
encourage.
roles that are different.
Yeah, and encourage. I would say encourage guys to be encouraging to the girls. And so that they can really come together to want to make art be really important and make so that they can make these statements, and get out of the ruts. I think
That is awesome.
so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That
of
was
course.
so
Yeah,
great.
that was
Thank you for
absolutely.
being here and
good.
talking to us.
Of course, absolutely.
That was really interesting.
Yeah.
So, just one more time. Comments under our YouTube channel, under these videos. Tell us what you like, don't like. Comments about what we talked about. Anything else you'd like us to be going over. If you're in the Denver area and you have experiences and insights on things, contact us. It's on lastcatherine.com. And we'd love to have you come here and visit with us about anything that you think is important to talk about. So, and
Follow us on Twitter, and you can message us on Facebook, and that's it.
there you go.
Wraps it up.
All right. Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.